Hello and welcome back to our channel. We are still unboxing internet comments that have to do with the recent comments by David Gabriel about Marvel's diversity. I'm McKenna, this is Judith, and that's Monica, and here we go.
Unbox the internet.
Okay. I'm scared after that last one.
Yeah, pick a good one. Someone might have gamed the box for next time.
I'm a rule follower. Oh, this is why you should game the box. I already kind of preempted this one. This is an exchange between Joe Smith and Chris Stokes on Charles Paul Hoffman's No Diversity Didn't Kill Marvel comic sales on comic book resources. That's actually a really fascinating article. It'll be up in the show notes. It actually looks through the demographics and sales of different comic books and argues that Gabriel's actually wrong.
Interesting.
So Joe Smith says, I've dropped Marvel Comics because I'm sick and tired from all these high and mighty writers with their endless virtue signaling and political correctness that they're trying to shove down your throat.
We got a lot of this.
The shove down your throat is a metaphor which comes up again and again and again.
Poor Judith had a shove down your throat day one day, and she's
Yes.
like, I can't read any more of this.
Yes, I was very happy when I went to the British ones and they were all ticking boxes.
So polite.
Yes. And Marvel started demonizing the cops who are the true heroes. And after Marvel started demonizing the cops who are the true heroes, it was the last straw. Chris Stokes responds, so is good versus evil now virtue signaling? I see this bullshit show up in the comics thread. It's a lot now. It seems like anytime a character does something that is that a good guy would do, or treats others with respect and kindness, some MRA type calls it virtue signaling. Do you consider the concept of good or doing the right thing virtue signaling? Jesus, you must roll your eyes and take to Reddit anytime Spider-Man suggests, with great power there must also come great responsibility. Nice virtue signaling, Spidey. Libturd. Why do you ever read comics if you hate the idea of good so much? So that one of the things I actually like about that is it is someone doing exactly what we asked them to do last time. That idea of calling out. Though in this case, both times, I think that what we might want to talk about here is how we engage with each other. Yeah, because in both cases, I don't think anyone's going to change their minds with that exchange. I like the calling Spidey a libturd in order to promote the ridiculousness of the views. But it just becomes very much showing another side of my nerd identity. This isn't an argument, it's a contradiction from Monty Python. The idea that argument is reasoned approach and not necessarily just names, calling each other names.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, looking at this one, part of the thing that I'm sort of tempted to talk about is language. I know we touched on that in a bit last episode, SJW, virtue signaling, libtards. It's
But
complicated.
also on the other side,
MRA.
Yeah. So anyone who's putting forward a right-wing thing is a MRA activist.
Yeah, and so, what I'd like to say about that is, you might have heard some stuff from us that is very academic jargony. For example, heteronormativity, right? And that will get, I think it gets parodied by people on the right as just a way in which we use language that is just labeling. And sometimes academics do use jargon, but it's shorthand, right? So we have this idea, when we're talking about heteronormativity, it's not heterosexuality. It's in fact, the entire structure of society that is set up around heterosexual relations and often entails gender roles, etc. So sometimes we use language because it's shorter to use that word, but it might come across as labeling. But I do think what's happening on the internet, and increasingly just in the media more broadly, as the internet basically influences the media. I mean, we see Twitter used as often on a newscast as it is, in my classroom. But I think that it's not so much shorthand as it is a way of shutting people down, right? As soon as I call you this thing, I don't have to listen to you anymore because you're othered, right? You're in that other camp, and I think it's deeply problematic for conversation. I shouldn't even say problematic. It should be more specific. I think often we use problematic when we could use better words. I think that it doesn't allow for real communication.
Yep. Tied in with that, the idea of intersectionality is something which one of the comment sections I read had a large diatribe against intersectionality, whereas many of the people on the comment section are actually demonstrating what we call intersectionality, that idea that people don't have just one identity.
Yeah.
So there's one person who is in the box somewhere, but I don't think we're going to get to
Only
him.
you gamed it.
If I'd only had gamed him, who identified himself as Latino and a nerdy Coke bottle glassed kid from Brooklyn.
Yep.
And that idea that you can be both of an ethnic identity and a nerd and someone from Brooklyn. And
that nerd is an identity that means a lot to a lot of us.
Yeah.
And that people are speaking from that nerd identity even while they're fighting against identity politics, right? And so intersectionality is actually a really useful comment that gets dismissed as, we've talked about it, vegan, lesbian. It's just a list of box ticking. And instead it should be about, we all occupy very complicated spaces in our lives, and that we can't speak for each other necessarily based on our experience. But
even white male heterosexual is intersectionality. Those are three different identities.
And you might be a white male heterosexual who experiences a lack of power as a nerd, right?
Yes.
So there's which is, so there's, anyways, we should let McKenna talk. This sometimes happens.
Yes, it's very interesting. I'm not like bored. Don't make a meme of
But
me.
the internet might be bored. They might want to hear from you.
Okay, going off of that, when these words are used to exclude characters specifically, like, for example, diversity points is another term that comes
you're
up.
totally right.
Whenever a character has a diverse identity, they are labeled as something that's trying to gain diversity points with SJWs, and that ignores anything else that comes with that character, to the point that some people don't read it because it has too much diversity points with the character. So that is problematic as well.
Yeah, and I mean, and they don't, what we don't recognize, and what some people on the internet don't seem to recognize, is that it's like, the white male characters never have to pass the same tests, right? Like, certainly Captain America, orphan, grows up poor, that's an identity, Irish immigrant family, closeted homosexual, I would say. And all of these things, I think, we don't see that the white characters have all sorts of things. Tony Stark, alcoholic, billionaire, that complicate them. But when it comes to a diversity character, it just becomes, we're ticking boxes. And that's deeply frustrating, because so labeling, when it's used to shut people down or as justification for not recognizing the complexity of either another person's political, social position, or a character that's written that you've just decided is stereotyped or flat, the labeling needs to stop people.
Yes, that idea that plurality of identity somehow or other makes you flatter, I don't understand. But it is very much that box ticking diversity points, that each time you add another identity on, it's somehow or other just shutting things down as opposed to opening things up.
Yeah.
If you think about it in terms of, here I'm going to be math nerd, Venn diagrams.
Who doesn't want to think about it in terms of Venn diagrams?
It is that idea that you have all of those circles. It's not just that tiny point of intersectionality, but also all the different circles all of them inform the identity.
And I just want to say one thing before we close out in the spirit of calling people out. People on the left who are trying to supposedly fight the good fight, can you please stop referring to anybody on the other side as a basement dwelling, virgin, angry,
living with mother.
Living with mother. All of these stereotypes, again, going back to Textual Poachers by Henry Jenkins. They have a long history. They're deeply offensive. And they don't help, and so stop it. You don't have to insult or stereotype the person that you're fighting with according to long-standing and very hurtful tropes. So definitely, people on the left, please stop doing that. And definitely, by the way, if you're in our comment section, if it's not just my mom and your mom and and your husband leaving us,
he's not going to go on the internet. He doesn't know how the internet works.
If you are on there, be nice to each other, and I think we'll sign out for now. Okay, as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if there's anybody other than my mom or my siblings who might actually be disagreeing with me in the comments, or your siblings or your partner, please be nice to each other in the comments. And see you next episode. I'm excited to see our manic waving.
Unbox the internet. Nerds will find a way. Unbox the internet. What's with kids today? Wonder Woman, Spider-Man. Look out now, I'm just a fan, but I've got something to say, and that's okay.